Tales of Mithrym.
Skeleton Crew, read by Lorenzo, Part 4, Below Deck. Several hours had passed and the sun was working its way down the sky now. The afternoon was still hot, but the lowering rays gave the promise of a cooler evening soon. The captain paced up and down the deck, barking orders to the crew as they hurried to make fast repairs to the ship. Below decks, Elvin and the sailor that had also been attacked, whose name it turned out was Sam, were lying on hard wooden beds, their wounds bandaged, each nursing a cup of rum. For the pain, the surgeon had said. It was strong stuff. A thick, dark, almost black-coloured liquid that poured a bit like syrup. It felt like fire in Elvin's throat as he sipped it down. It was certainly helping with the pain, though. He had a warm, fuzzy feeling all over him now. Just outside the room, he could make out the sound of voices, and then in came Derville, Ducky, and the sailor that had been defending Sam on deck. "Bonnie!" Sam shouted and winced from the pain in his side as he tried to sit up. "Steady on," Bonnie said, coming round to stand beside him. "Give that wound a chance to close up first." Ducky and Derville likewise came and stood beside Elvin. "What were those things?" Elvin asked. "They looked like—" Derville began, but Sam cut in. "Mermaids!" He had a look of horror mixed with amazement as he said the word. "I knew it. I knew they were real, but I never saw one before." "Mermaids?" Elvin looked puzzled. "I mean, sure, they looked a lot like... well, true enough," Bonnie sighed. "Captain's likely in a foul temper now. We've strayed a lot further south than we'd meant to." "What do you mean?" Elvin looked even more puzzled. "I mean," Bonnie said, "that we were never meant to get near these waters. We've ended up here a couple of times, usually with a good wind, mind you. Captain's brought us here on purpose, even. She loves to give the new sailors a bit of a run-in. Watching them swim alongside the ship's usually quite the eye-opener. Never been becalmed here, though." "So where are we, then?" Derville asked. "About 20 leagues off the west of Inga, I reckon. It'll be a long sail north back on track to Kanath." "So those really were mermaids?" Ducky looked wide-eyed at the two sailors. "Yep," Bonnie beamed. Ducky gasped, and his face formed into a massive smile. "Even my granny didn't know much about them," he grinned. "Well," Bonnie went on, "leastways that's what we call them. They don't tend to go far from here. Certainly I never saw them near land or anything like that. They're just a type of big fish, really. Looks a bit like people, so we calls them mermaids." "Are there any other—" Ducky stumbled over his words. "Are there any other things, like mermaids, out here?" "Loads," Sam smiled excitedly. "That's what I came here for, to see 'em all." "Nah," Bonnie laughed. "Not really. Not as you'd call real sea monsters or anything." Ducky and Sam both looked crestfallen. "There's stories, mark you, stories about all sorts of things. Giant squids and great octopuses, massive sharks and a great beast they calls a kraken. But I've never seen anything more than the normal sort. Well, save for the mermaids, of course. I mean, you might call the squids we see giant, you might call the sharks massive, but they're the normal sort of fish. Nothing too special." Sam lay back down in his bed and dropped his cup on the table beside him. Bonnie patted him on the head. "Don't you worry, my lad. There's adventure enough out there. We've got to sail back round north yet, and rumour has it there's pirates round some of the ways we'll have to go to get there from here." Derville gave Bonnie a knowing glance, but Sam seemed appeased by this and shortly dropped off into a quiet sleep. "So how long do you think it will take us to get to Kanath now?" Elvin asked. "If we can keep a good wind, maybe 2 weeks. Probably more like 3 or even 4, though," Bonnie sighed. "And I'm worried that we're going to have trouble going that long at this rate. We haven't built up supplies for long enough now. Shame we didn't manage to bag one of them mermaids," Ducky snorted. "You think?" Bonnie scoffed. "They're not human, I'll grant you, but I'm not about to start trying them with chips, no sir. They're pack animals. You saw that, didn't you? The way they called to each other. Can't say I wants to be always looking over my back to see if they're out for revenge." "So what then?" Elvin asked. "So we all better start getting used to the taste of biscuits if we're going to make it to port. Just a shame we didn't take on any fruit before we left. Could do with a lemon or two." "Well, it sounds like there will not be much excitement anytime soon," Elvin said, leaning back on his bed and shuffling a little to try and get comfortable. "I doubt that anything is going to coax me out of this bed for a day at least." Just then they heard a sudden commotion on the deck above. Muffled voices shouted a message that seemed to be getting passed down the aisle. Scurrying feet ran this way and that as unseen messengers looked for people to pass it on to. A series of thuds came down the stairs outside the surgeon's cabin, and the handle of the door rattled as an eager hand opened the door. In stepped a sailor with a broad grin on his face. Bonnie, come on, he called excitedly. What is it? Bonnie asked, hurrying round to the doorway. Land ho!
Tales of Mithrym are written by Jimmy Clephane. Mithrym is a fantasy world built for the Dungeon Room role-playing game system. To find out more about the world of Mithrym, or to try out the game, go to www.mithrym.com.